Tell me what the Democrats are running on.
Impeach 45!
The Democrats have nothing to run on, so they resorted to racist and xenophobe and all these other things.
African-American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, record lows.
This election cycle is about the highest stakes possible for our nation.
This is Armageddon.
You know, this is tough stuff. We're fighting a war.
Well, that's a clip from the film Trump at War, the new documentary from former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon. And President Trump's enemies are seemingly emboldened after the release of details from the Woodward book and that anonymous New York Times op-ed by a senior administration official. Bannon says President Trump is now facing what is essentially a coup from within his own White House. He joins us now with more. You can see the film Wednesday on the One America News Network. That's going to be a lot of fun, 8 p.m. How you doing, Bannon?
Hey.
Long time no see.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for dressing up. You have your own clothing line coming out, right? It's black on black. Or I wanted the military jacket.
I knew if I was going to come on the show, you were going to bust my chops.
I know.
I deserve it. I deserve it.
I needed the military jacket tonight because it's at war. You're at war, so you got to be in the military coat. All right. Why the film? Why now? I mean, we're at war. We've been at war from the beginning. I mean,
what Trump has against the permanent political class.
Right.
You know, I've talked about this for years. You know, I've been on your radio show. You were on my radio show. Trump has been at war with the permanent political class. About 8 months ago, I started this film, feeling that by the time we had the run-up, it was going to be like the Tea Party movement. We needed these rally films to kind of get people empowered. So this film is for the base plus, to get them excited, to get them out, you know, walking precincts, et cetera. So I think it's, you know, you can already tell it's gotten a big reaction already from the Democratic left.
Well, the funny thing is that it's coming out Wednesday when you had Omarosa, we had Michael Wolff, Omarosa, Woodward, and now the anonymous column. And there are some out there who say this was all planned. I mean, I don't know if it was all planned and coordinated, but you almost would think it would be, given that it's every day it's a drip, drip, drip.
The film shows what President Trump's been up against since day one, right? It shows in the campaign, but particularly shows in the White House what he's up against. And I think the convergence of that book in the anonymous column, I mean, it's quite evident that President Trump, there's a coup. I mean, there's a coup like there was a coup by General McClellan and the senior leadership in the Union Army to try to thwart what Abraham Lincoln wanted to do in the Civil War. You have an exact type of coup right now. What was said in that anonymous letter was absolutely outrageous. And I think the president ought to take immediate and direct action to find out who the conspirators are. I don't think there's any one author. I think there's an author that, I think there's somebody that drafted it. There are many voices in there. I think you can tell the way it's written. I think that's a much broader conspiracy than people think. I think it's probably 6 to a dozen people. And I think you ought to immediately start to do what Andrew Jackson did, or do what Abraham Lincoln did. Find out who's responsible and fire him.
Well, you have Broadway actresses now basically wishing that John Wilkes Booth were still around. I mean, this is the this is the level of discourse and dialogue that they always blame Trump for. They say, well, he's the one who said you can go punch someone out at a rally.
You can see in the first, I have a prologue in this film that's 5 minutes long. If this was put into theaters, because it's going to be distributed otherwise, it would probably be almost X-rated for violence and language. What we did is went back to the rallies. We went back to what Antifa's done to the Trump supporters. We show the violence. I mean, the left is out of control right now, okay, across the board.
Is it by any means necessary?
They are, absolutely, any means necessary. And now they have cohorts. Now they have cohorts in the administration, and I think it's broader than the White House. Remember, what the New York Times said was senior administration officials, and what that basically means for the New York Times is cabinet secretaries and their deputies, major agency heads, and assistants to the president, which is about 40 to 50 people.
Nikki Haley came out with an op-ed in the New York Times where she basically, it was supportive of the president, but it basically said, when I want to challenge the president, I do so directly to his face. And there was word that the president didn't like that much, because like, why do you have to write a column with that focus? Again, it was fairly positive toward the president, but pointing out she disagrees with him on key issues. When I worked for the Reagan administration, it wasn't so out there constantly that you had, perpetual infighting, although there were people who were less conservative than Reagan. But there was more of a movement. There was more of a sense of a movement.
I don't know. When Jim Baker, and come on, with Jim Baker,
yeah,
and towards the end of the first term and the second term, you had the knives being put into the conservatives every day. White Houses are naturally, cauldrons, cauldrons of different opinions, etc.
But that's okay, because Trump does like people with differing opinions. And in the end, did Gary Cohn get his way on trade?
He did not.
No.
By the way.
Lighthizer did.
By the way, that's the power of...
Trump did.
I said today to Politico, what President Trump ought to do in the book is buy 1 million copies and airdrop them into the congressional districts we've got to win. Here's what it shows. That President Trump had the right idea from the beginning. He understands we're at economic war with China, and he's going to bring all forces of the government to bear in that economic war. Cohen and Porter and all this crowd that fought him, the Committee to Save America, which the book is basically the typed up notes, the two central parts, the economic war against China and Afghanistan, in which the president was lied to and it was misled about the cost of Afghanistan and what type of control we had over the country. That's why Mattis just went to Afghanistan. They're trying to bail themselves out. By the way, they were not upfront. They were not upfront and truthful to the president of the United States. And so if you look at, and they say in there that he has the temperament of a 5-year-old. I told Politico today, if that's a 5-year-old, I want more.
Me too. That's what I said.
I want more 5-year-olds on the National Security Council. Here's a guy that has in everything they say in the book about his trade policies and economic war is dead wrong.
Obama's taking credit for the economy. You got this manufacturing boom, blue collar jobs, wages going up for the lowest wage workers. They said it would never happen. It's happening. He's killing it on the jobs front. Obama's taking credit on Friday.
By the way, not just Obama, but also the Bush administration. Let's be brutally frank.
And Anonymous is taking credit.
A lot of the Anonymous are people from the Bush administration, establishment Republicans, and the Democrats have been about managed decline to the United States of America. President Trump is a disruptor. He's an innovator. And this is what drives him nuts. Because of his policy, and what he's doing is reorienting the world's supply chain back to the United States. That's why Mexico's just cut a deal with us. That's why the EU is going to cut a deal with us. That's why Korea and Japan are going to cut deals with us. He's winning. He's absolute economic nationalist. Absolutely. You can tell what he's doing on trade. He's bringing jobs back here, just like he said he's going to do. They hate that. Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohn, these guys are the investor relations department of the Chinese regime.
But they're all bought into China.
100%.
They're all their chips are on China.
What they told Trump is that the rise of China is like the second law.
It's inevitable.
Inevitable. It's like the second law of thermodynamics. It's some law of physics that can't be turned around. And Trump said that's not true. And he's been relentless. The book opens where they're taking off his desk the deal about NAFTA and about Korea. Eventually, and they said, oh, it's terrible. Trump didn't know. Eventually, he got around to it.
Right.
He renegotiated NAFTA. He renegotiated Korea, and he's renegotiating in the process of taking the supply chain back from China.
Why was Omarosa hired?
She was on the campaign. And by the way, Omarosa was very good on the campaign.
Yeah.
Very effective.
She was
on the
effective,
campaign.
but boy,
she was very effective on the campaign. She did a terrific job. We had to throw Omarosa into some very tough situations, and I think that's why Reince
taping conversation.
Well, I think that's why Reince, look, in hindsight, but Reince and people, I think, made a straightforward decision.
Looking forward to seeing the film.
Looking forward
can't wait to see it.
Trump at War. Go to trumpatwar.com.
Trumpatwar.com, and you can find out more. You can watch a trailer if you haven't seen it already. A lot of you already have.